Captain Minho Park stood at the observation window of Sentinel-7, watching the darkness of space. His hands were steady, but his heart raced. The monitors behind him showed hundreds of red dots moving toward Earth. The Vryn fleet had arrived. "How many ships?" Minho asked without turning around. 347, sir," his communications officer replied, "maybe more behind them." "They're still coming through the jump point." Minho nodded slowly. 300 ships. More than enough to destroy every city on Earth. More than enough to kill everyone he loved. But Earth had been preparing for this moment for 200 years. Every person alive had been born knowing this day would come. "Send the message," Minho said quietly. His officer pressed a button. Across all frequencies in perfect Vryn language, Earth spoke. "Turn back. This system is defended. You have been warned." That was it. One simple warning. No threats. No begging. Just 5 words that the Vryn would ignore. Minho had studied the Vryn for his entire adult life. Every human had. They were conquerors who had destroyed 47 civilizations. They never negotiated. They never showed mercy. They took what they wanted, and they wanted Earth. Aboard the Vryn flagship Dominion, Archon Velric heard Earth's message and laughed. His officers joined him, their voices echoing through the command center. "Defended?" Velric said, his voice full of amusement. "By what?" "I see 12 ships, 12. We have 300. They have no idea what real power looks like." Tactical Overseer Kyrith stood beside him, studying the data. Something felt wrong. The human message was too calm. Too simple. Why waste energy on a warning when they could be running? "Archon," Kyrith said carefully, "perhaps we should scan the system more thoroughly." "The humans seem what? Brave?" Velric interrupted. "They're desperate. They know they're going to die, so they pretend to be strong. It's what weak species always do." He waved his hand dismissively. "Continue to Earth. We'll be celebrating our victory in 3 days." Kyrith wanted to argue, but she knew better. Velric had conquered worlds for 2 centuries. He had never been wrong before. Still, she ordered extra sensor sweeps, just in case. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in a bunker that had taken 50 years to build, Commander Jiwoo Kim watched the Vryn fleet advance. Around her, hundreds of officers monitored screens showing every ship, every movement, every detail. "They ignored the warning," someone said. "Of course they did," Jiwoo replied. She had gray hair now, earned from 3 decades of planning this moment. "Dr. Lee, confirm the Vryn are following predicted patterns." Dr. Heejin Lee looked up from her station. She was younger than Jiwoo, but her eyes looked old. She had spent 20 years studying Vryn behavior, learning how they thought, how they fought, how they conquered. "They're exactly where we predicted, Commander," Heejin said. "They'll pass Jupiter in 14 hours. Then the asteroid belt, then Mars. Each time they'll encounter resistance." "Resistance they'll destroy," Jiwoo said. "Yes," Heejin agreed softly. "And every time they win, they'll move deeper into the trap." Jiwoo pulled up a map of the solar system. It showed the Vryn fleet in red, moving toward Earth in blue. But there were other markers too. Thousands of them. Green dots scattered throughout the system, hidden and waiting. For 200 years, humanity had built these weapons. Every mining station, every colony, every satellite. They all hid something deadly. The Vryn thought they were attacking a young species. They had no idea they were entering the most sophisticated trap ever created. Jiwoo thought about the cost. 1,200 volunteers on Mars who would pretend to defend their homes. They would fight hard. They would die. All to make the Vryn believe they were winning. 400 more in the asteroid belt. Thousands of automated systems that had cost the labor of millions to build. Her grandfather had worked on the lunar installations. Her mother had helped to design the asteroid weapons. Jiwoo herself had given up everything for this plan. She had no children, no husband, no life outside this bunker. She had sacrificed her future so humanity could have one. Was it worth it? Heejin asked quietly, as if reading her mind. Jiwoo looked at the map. In 3 days, the Vryn would reach Earth. In 3 days, they would learn what happens when you ignore a warning. "Ask me in 4 days," Jiwoo said, "when we're either free or dead." Back at Sentinel-7, Minho received new orders. Evacuate, take his crew and run. Their station had served its purpose. The warning was sent. Now they needed to survive to see what came next. But Minho couldn't stop watching the Vryn fleet. Each ship was enormous, 3 times the size of anything humanity had built. Their weapons could destroy cities with single shots. Their shields could absorb incredible damage. They were predators, and Earth looked like easy prey. That was the point. Humanity had learned an important lesson from history. Strong animals attack the weak. But the weak sometimes had teeth. The key was hiding those teeth until the predator was close enough to bite. "Sir, the Vryn are scanning us," his officer reported. "Let them look," Minho said. "Make sure they see old technology. Make sure they see fear." Sentinel-7 began broadcasting false data. The Vryn scanners would see outdated weapons, weak shields, and a crew preparing to run. They would see exactly what they expected, a primitive species that knew it was about to lose. What they wouldn't see was the truth. They wouldn't see the weapons hidden on every moon, every asteroid, every piece of space debris. They wouldn't see the millions of people who had trained their entire lives for this battle. They wouldn't see humanity's greatest strength, patience. The Vryn had conquered 47 civilizations because they were strong and fast. They attacked quickly, overwhelmed their enemies, and moved on. They had never faced an enemy who was willing to wait, who was willing to sacrifice, who was willing to turn their entire home into a weapon. "Evacuation complete, sir," his officer reported. "We're ready to depart." Minho took one last look at the Vryn fleet. They were still advancing, confident and unstoppable. In 3 days they would reach Earth. In 3 days everything would change. "Take us home," Minho ordered. "We have a war to win." As Sentinel-7 fled toward Mars, Minho thought about Earth's message. 5 simple words. The Vryn had laughed at them. They thought it was desperation. They were wrong. It wasn't a plea. It was a promise. Earth had warned them once. That was more mercy than the Vryn had ever shown anyone else. Now the predators would learn what it meant to become prey. Lieutenant Sumin Choi watched from her transport ship as the orbital defense platforms fired at the Vryn fleet. Bright streaks of light crossed the darkness, hitting alien shields in brilliant explosions. It looked like humanity was fighting hard. It looked like they might even win. It was all a lie. Platform 7 destroyed, someone reported over the radio. Platform 12 damaged. Platform 3 offline. Each report was carefully timed. Each platform died exactly when it was supposed to. The Vryn didn't know they were watching a performance. They thought they were winning. Soman was 27 years old. She had been born on Mars, in the colony that was now under attack. Her parents had raised her knowing this day would come. They had taught her the plan. They had made her promise to follow orders no matter how hard it became. Her parents were still down there. They had volunteered to stay behind to make the defense look real. Soman would never see them again. "All civilians evacuated," the captain announced. "Military personnel prepare for final defense phase." Soman knew what that meant. The final defense phase was actually the final sacrifice phase. 800 soldiers would stay behind to fight. They would make the Vryn work for their victory. They would die slowly, making the aliens believe Mars was important. It was all about time. Every hour the Vryn spent at Mars was another hour for Earth to prepare. Every ship they damaged here was one less ship for the real battle. Aboard the Dominion, Archon Velric watched Mars fall. It had taken 6 hours. 6 hours! For a primitive colony. His officers looked concerned, but Velric smiled. "You see," he said, "the humans fight harder than we expected. This makes our victory more meaningful." Kareth wasn't smiling. She studied the battle reports, analyzing every detail. The human defense had been fierce but strangely organized. They had focused fire on specific ships, forcing the Vryn fleet into specific formations. It was almost like they wanted to push the fleet into certain positions. "Archon, I recommend we change our approach vector," Kareth said. "Why? We're winning. That's what concerns me. It's too easy." "They're hurting us," Velric laughed. "Hurting us? We have 300 ships. They can't hurt anything. You're seeing patterns where none exist. Continue to Earth, we'll crush whatever they have waiting." But Kareth couldn't shake the feeling. Something was wrong. She ordered her analysts to review everything, searching for the trap she knew was coming. Captain Minho Park's ship, the Hwarang, waited in the asteroid belt with 15 other vessels. They looked like desperate defenders making a last stand. In reality, they were bait with very specific instructions. Vryn fleet approaching, his sensor officer reported. 298 ships. They lost 49 at Mars. 49 ships destroyed and 800 humans dead. Minho tried not to think about the math. Each human life had cost the Vryn almost 6 ships. In any normal war, that would be a disaster. But this wasn't a normal war. All ships, listen carefully, Minho said over the command channel. We attack from position Alpha 7. Target their command vessels. Force them to respond. Make them chase us into sectors 4 through 9. Every captain acknowledged. They all knew the plan. Attack, retreat, lead the enemy deeper into the belt. Every asteroid around them hid weapons that would activate later. But not yet. Not until the Vryn were exactly where Earth wanted them. The Hwarang accelerated toward the Vryn fleet. 16 human ships against 300 alien warships. It looked insane. It looked like a suicide mission. The Vryn took the bait. Minho's squadron fired everything they had at the alien command ships. Missiles, railgun rounds, energy beams. Most shots bounced off Vryn shields, but a few got through. It was enough to anger them. They're pursuing. Someone shouted. Good. Fall back to Waypoint Delta. Make them work for it. The human ships retreated through the asteroid field, weaving between rocks and debris. The Vryn followed, their larger ships struggling to maintain formation. They spread out to avoid collisions. They moved into the sectors Minho had specified. Perfect, 3 of Minho's ships didn't make it. They sacrificed themselves to keep the Vryn interested, to make the chase look real. 96 people died in those explosions. 96 volunteers who knew their deaths would save millions. In Earth's command center, Dr. Heejin Lee updated her models in real time. Every Vryn movement matched her predictions. 20 years of studying their tactics, their psychology, their patterns. It was all proving accurate. The Vryn fleet is in position, she reported to Commander Jiwoo. Spread across sectors 4 through 9, exactly as planned. Lunar batteries have firing solutions. Asteroid platforms ready. Earth orbital defenses armed. Jiwoo studied the tactical display. The Vryn fleet was stretched across millions of kilometers, divided into smaller groups. They thought they were hunting human ships. They had no idea they were standing in the middle of the largest minefield in history. How long until they reach Earth orbit? Jiwoo asked. 14 hours at current speed, 14 hours. Jiwoo had waited 30 years for this moment. Humanity had waited 200. 14 more hours seemed impossible, but they had no choice. The trap only worked if the Vryn came all the way to Earth. Tell all stations to maintain dormant status, Jiwoo ordered. No active scans. No transmissions. We're ghosts until I give the word. Across the solar system, thousands of hidden weapons went silent. They would look like rocks, debris, dead satellites. The Vryn sensors would sweep past them without noticing. Why would they look closer? They were winning. Aboard the Dominion, Velric celebrated. Mars had fallen. The human ships in the asteroid belt were running scared. Earth was almost within reach. Another day, maybe 2, and the conquest would be complete. Begin preparations for the final assault, Velric ordered. I want every ship ready to strike Earth's defenses simultaneously. We'll overwhelm them before they can react. Kirith watched him give orders, feeling sick. She had reviewed all the data again. The patterns were undeniable. Every human action had pushed the Vryn fleet into specific positions. Every retreat had been precisely calculated. The humans weren't running. They were leading, but she had no proof. Just instinct. And Velric didn't believe in instinct. He believed in strength, in numbers, in victory. Archon, Kirith tried one more time. Please, let me scan the system more thoroughly. Let me verify. Enough, Velric snapped. You've questioned every decision since Mars. The humans are weak. They're dying. In one day, we'll add Earth to our collection. Stop seeing phantoms and prepare for victory. Kirith fell silent. There was nothing more she could do. If she was wrong, she would look like a coward. If she was right, they would all be dead before anyone believed her. Back on the Hwarang, Minho received final orders from Earth Command. His job was done. He had led the Vryn exactly where they needed to be. Now he was supposed to retreat to Earth, to join the final defense. But retreating meant passing through the kill zone. It meant risking his ship and his crew in the chaos that was about to begin. Set course for Earth, Minho ordered. Maximum speed. Stay away from all Vryn vessels. As the Hwarang accelerated toward home, Minho thought about everything humanity had sacrificed. Mars, the asteroid defenders, the decoy ships, all to create this moment. The Vryn thought they were hours from victory. They had no idea they were hours from annihilation. And it was all because they had ignored one simple warning. The Vryn fleet moved into Earth orbit like a predator approaching wounded prey. 300 ships formed a perfect siege formation, surrounding the planet from every angle. It was textbook strategy, the same formation they had used to conquer 47 other worlds. Archon Velric stood on his bridge, looking at Earth through the main viewer. Blue and green, peaceful and beautiful. In a few hours it would belong to the Vryn Collective. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. Excellent. Begin the attack, Velric started to say. A transmission cut across all Vryn frequencies. It was Commander Jiwoo Kim, her voice calm and cold. We gave you one warning. You should have listened, Velric laughed. Then the moon exploded with light. Not the whole moon, but the surface erupted like a volcano of steel and fire. Hundreds of concealed railgun platforms opened fire simultaneously. The lunar surface, which had looked like a simple mining colony, revealed its true purpose. It was the largest weapons platform ever built. Railgun rounds traveled at incredible speeds, punching through Vryn shields like paper. 3 ships exploded in the first 5 seconds. Then 7 more. Then 12. Return fire! Target the moon, Velric shouted. But before his ships could respond, the asteroids came alive. Every rock the Vryn had passed in the belt, every piece of debris they had ignored, they were all weapons. Thousands of hidden platforms activated at once, creating a sphere of overlapping fire. The Vryn fleet was completely surrounded. Kyrith watched the tactical display turn red with warnings. She shouted at Velric that they were taking fire from all directions, that the entire system was armed. Velric stared in horror. This was impossible. The humans were primitive. They were supposed to be easy. How could they have built all this? The answer was simple: 200 years of preparation. While the Vryn had conquered other worlds, humanity had turned their entire solar system into a single massive weapon. Earth's orbital stations revealed themselves next. What had looked like industrial satellites dropped their disguises. Advanced shields powered up. Hidden weapons emerged from concealed bays. They were automated battleships, and they all opened fire together. The Vryn fleet tried to return fire, but their formation was wrong. They were spread too thin, divided into small groups. Every retreat humanity had staged, every attack, had been designed to push the Vryn into this exact position. Spread out, vulnerable, trapped. Kyrith shouted that they needed to retreat, that all ships should fall back immediately. Another 20 ships exploded. The Dominion's shields dropped to 40%. Velric finally understood. They weren't fighting a desperate defense. They were caught in a trap that had been 2 centuries in the making. Velric ordered all ships to fall back, to get them out of the kill zone. But there was nowhere to go. The exit routes were blocked by more hidden platforms. Every direction led into more crossfire. The Vryn tried to break through, but their numbers worked against them. Ships collided, trying to escape. Damaged vessels became obstacles for healthy ones. Captain Minho Park watched from the Hwarang, safely behind Earth's defense lines. His ship had made it through just before the trap closed. Now he watched the Vryn fleet tear itself apart. His officer reported orders from command. They were to engage Vryn command ships, disable them but not destroy them. Earth wanted prisoners, Minho nodded. The Hwarang and 15 other ships emerged from Earth's shadow. They weren't running anymore. They weren't pretending to be weak. They moved with precision, targeting specific Vryn vessels. Years of training showed in every maneuver. The Vryn command ship tried to defend itself, but it was already damaged from the lunar batteries. Minho's squadron hit it with electromagnetic pulses, disabling its weapons and engines. The ship drifted, helpless. Minho reported the target secured and ordered Marines to board. Lieutenant Soman Choi led her team through the breach. They moved through the Vryn ship like a knife through water. Every corridor, every defensive position, they had trained for this. They knew Vryn ship layouts better than the Vryn did. Soman reached the data core and began downloading everything. Battle plans, star charts, information about other Vryn fleets. Intelligence that would keep humanity safe for decades. Soman reported that they had the data and were extracting. Around her, the battle raged. But it wasn't really a battle anymore. It was an execution. The Vryn fleet had started with 300 ships. After 1 hour, 200 were destroyed or disabled. After 2 hours, only 75 remained functional. After 3 hours, the survivors were running for deep space. Commander Jiwoo watched from Earth's command center. The tactical display showed Vryn ships fleeing in all directions. Earth's weapons tracked them all the way to Jupiter. Some escaped. Most didn't. Status report, Jiwoo said quietly. Dr. Heejin Lee checked her screens and reported the numbers. 291 Vryn ships destroyed, 43 disabled and captured. 18 escaped to deep space. Our casualties? Hijin paused before answering. 3,200 military personnel, 800 colonists, 37 ships, 4,000 dead, 4,000 people who had volunteered, who had known the plan, who had given everything for this moment. Jiwoo felt the weight of every single name, but they had won. Against a force that had conquered 47 civilizations, humanity had won. Not through superior technology or bigger ships. They won through patience, planning, and the willingness to sacrifice everything. Aboard the Dominion, Velric sat in his command chair, staring at the ruins of his fleet. His ship was dead in space, shields gone, weapons destroyed. Around him, Earth's forces closed in. Kyrith stood beside him, her expression unreadable. She told him that she had tried to warn him. How? Velric whispered. How did they do this? Kyrith explained. They waited. For 200 years they prepared. They studied the Vryn, learned how they think, how they fight, how they conquer, and then they used all of it against them. Velric thought about all the worlds he had conquered. He had always moved fast, struck hard, overwhelmed his enemies before they could react. He had never faced an enemy willing to wait, willing to sacrifice, willing to turn their entire home into a weapon. Human Marines entered the bridge. Velric expected them to kill him. Instead, they just surrounded him, weapons ready. One of the Marines told him he was a prisoner of Earth and would be treated according to their laws. Their laws. Not Vryn laws, Earth's laws. The humans were claiming authority over him. After 200 years of conquest, Velric had become what he had always made others. Defeated. As they took him away, Velric thought about Earth's warning. One simple message. 5 words. He had laughed at it. Turn back. This system is defended. You have been warned. They had warned him. He just hadn't listened. 6 months after the battle, Admiral Minho Park stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, Earth's first true warship. Not a disguised mining vessel, not a hidden platform. A real military ship, built to project power across the stars. The promotion still felt strange. He had gone from captain of a small squadron to admiral of Earth's diplomatic fleet. But Earth needed someone who understood both war and peace, someone who had fought but also knew the cost. Around the Indomitable floated 30 other ships. Some were military, others were scientific vessels, diplomatic transports, and medical frigates. This wasn't an invasion force. It was a mission of contact and cooperation. All ships report ready for jump, his tactical officer announced. Minho looked at the star chart. Their destination was the Talaran system, home to one of the species the Vryn had marked for conquest. According to the recovered data, the Vryn would attack in 5 years. 5 years. That was how long humanity had taken to prepare, once they knew the enemy was coming. It wasn't much time, but it was more than nothing. If Earth could help the Talaran prepare, maybe they could survive too. Take us out, Minho ordered. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. Earth was no longer hiding. They were announcing themselves to the galaxy, not as conquerors, as allies. Back on Earth, Dr. Hijin Lee prepared for her own mission. She had been appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, a council that didn't exist yet, but would soon. 6 alien species had responded to Earth's initial broadcasts. All of them were terrified of the Vryn. Some had already been attacked and barely survived. Others had only heard rumors. Now Earth was offering something they desperately needed: knowledge. Hijin studied the files on each species. The Talaran were peaceful explorers. The Krell were traders. The Vosh were scientists. The Merriks were farmers. The Solth were artists. The Halan were miners. None of them were warriors. None of them had prepared for war. They were exactly like Earth had been 200 years ago, vulnerable and unaware. But they didn't have 200 years. Some had less than 5. They needed help, and they needed it now. Hyejin's transport launched from Earth, heading to the neutral space where the first council meeting would take place. She carried with her everything Earth had learned about the Vryn. Battle tactics, weaknesses, psychological profiles, technology assessments. Most importantly, she carried a message. You are not alone. Lieutenant Soman Choi had a different assignment. She led a humanitarian mission to the former Vryn slave worlds. When Earth destroyed the invasion fleet, they had crippled the Vryn collective. Now conquered species were rebelling, breaking their chains, fighting for freedom. Soman's ships carried medical supplies, food, defensive weapons, and engineers. They weren't there to conquer or control. They were there to help people who had suffered under Vryn rule for generations. The first world they reached was called Verath. It had been enslaved for 30 years. When the Vryn fleet didn't return, the local resistance had risen up. They had won their freedom, but at a terrible cost. Cities were damaged, infrastructure destroyed, millions were starving. Soman's team landed with food and medicine. The Verath people stared at them with suspicion. They had learned not to trust anyone who came from the stars. Every visitor for 30 years had brought only pain, but Soman was patient. She and her team worked alongside the Verath, helping rebuild, asking nothing in return. Slowly, trust began to grow. One night, a Verath elder asked Soman why Earth was helping them. What did humans want in return? Soman thought about her parents on Mars, about the 14,000 who died in Earth's defense, about what it meant to sacrifice for others. We want you to be free, she said simply. We know what it's like to face the Vryn. We know what it costs to survive. If we can help others avoid that cost, then maybe all the sacrifice meant something. Former Commander Ji-Woo Kim had stepped away from military command, but she hadn't stopped working. She now led the War Memorial Commission, ensuring that future generations would remember what happened and why. The memorial was expanding. New names were added every day as rescue teams found more casualties. But Ji-Woo also added something else: a historical archive. Every decision, every plan, every sacrifice, all documented and preserved. Future humans needed to understand what their ancestors had done, not to glorify war, but to remember that peace required constant work, that freedom wasn't free, that vigilance wasn't paranoia when real threats existed. Ji-Woo spent her days interviewing survivors, collecting stories, building a complete picture of Earth's greatest trial. She talked to soldiers who had fought, engineers who had built the hidden weapons, civilians who had volunteered as decoys. Each story added another piece to the puzzle. Together, they showed what humanity was capable of when united by common purpose. One unexpected addition to Earth's team was Kyrith. The captured Vryn tactical overseer had chosen to stay on Earth. She provided intelligence about other Vryn fleets and potential threats. More surprisingly, she asked to help contact other species, to warn them about her own people. Some humans wanted to imprison her forever. She had been part of 47 conquests. She had helped destroy civilizations. But others saw her differently. She had tried to stop the Earth invasion. She had been the only Vryn to recognize the trap. Eventually, Earth granted her citizenship. She became the first alien to officially join humanity. Not as a prisoner or a guest, but as one of them. The galaxy was changing. The Vryn collective, once unstoppable, was collapsing. Without their military might, they couldn't hold their empire together. Conquered worlds were breaking free. Their remaining fleets were pulling back to defend their home systems. Earth had done what no one else had managed. They had stopped the Vryn. And in doing so, they had changed everything. 6 months after the battle, the first Galactic Council meeting took place. Representatives from 7 species gathered in neutral space. Hye-Jin represented Earth. Around her sat beings from different worlds, different cultures, different philosophies. But they all had one thing in common. They wanted to survive. Hye-Jin stood to speak. She told them Earth's story, not just the victory but the cost, the 200 years of preparation, the 14,000 who died, the sacrifices required. Then she offered Earth's help, military advisors to help build defenses, engineers to construct hidden weapons, intelligence about Vryn tactics and psychology. Everything Earth had learned, freely shared. In return, Earth asked only one thing: cooperation. Stand together, help each other. Never let another species face extinction alone. The council agreed unanimously. They formed the Alliance of Free Worlds, with Earth as its founding member and strongest defender. That same day, Earth began constructing a massive space station at the edge of the solar system. It would serve as both embassy and fortress, a place where allies could gather, but also a reminder of human resolve. The station had a name, the Final Warning. Admiral Minho Park was there for the dedication ceremony. He stood with Hyejin, Somin, Jiwoo, and Kyrith. The five of them had led Earth through its darkest hour. Now they were helping build a better future. As the station powered up, Earth broadcast a new message to the galaxy. Not a warning to enemies, but a promise to friends. The message was simple. We defended our home with everything we had. We will defend our allies with the same determination. To those who seek peace, welcome. To those who seek conquest, remember the Vryn. Minho thought about how far humanity had come. 200 years ago, they were isolated and afraid. 6 months ago, they were fighting for survival. Now they were protectors of others. The Vryn had come to Earth expecting easy prey. Instead, they found predators. They ignored a simple warning and paid the ultimate price. Their defeat had sent a message across the galaxy that would echo for generations. Humanity would not go quietly. Humanity would not be victims. And anyone who threatened Earth or its allies would learn the same lesson. Some species were grateful for Earth's protection. Others were frightened by human capabilities. Both reactions were understandable. Earth had proven they could be terrible enemies. Now they had to prove they could be trusted friends. It wouldn't be easy. There would be more threats, more wars, more sacrifices. But Earth was no longer alone. They had allies now, partners, friends who stood together against the darkness. As Minho prepared to lead his fleet on its next mission, he thought about Earth's original warning to the Vryn. 5 simple words that could have saved 300 ships and thousands of lives. Turn back. This system is defended. You have been warned. The Vryn had ignored that warning. They had paid for their arrogance with blood and defeat. Earth would never forget that lesson, and they would make sure no one else did either. The galaxy had learned something important. Humanity was dangerous when threatened, but valuable as allies. They had turned their entire solar system into a trap that destroyed the greatest invasion force in history. Now they were using that same determination to protect others. Commander Jiwoo Kim walked through the memorial hall deep beneath Earth's surface. The walls were covered with names, thousands of them. Every person who had died in the defense of Earth. Some had died in combat. Others had volunteered to be bait, knowing they would never come home. Jiwoo stopped at one name, Lieutenant Colonel Daeho Kim, her younger brother. He had commanded the Mars defense platforms. He had stayed behind when everyone else evacuated. He had made the Vryn believe Mars was worth fighting for. She touched the wall, feeling the carved letters. Her plan had worked perfectly. Mars had fallen exactly as scheduled. The Vryn had moved exactly where she predicted. The trap had closed flawlessly. Her brother was still dead. Dr. Hyejin Lee found her there, staring at the wall. Hyejin had her own reasons to visit the memorial. Her research team had predicted the Vryn invasion patterns. Her work had made the trap possible. But predictions meant nothing to the families of the dead. The final casualty count is ready, Hyejin said quietly. Jiwoo didn't want to hear it. She already knew it would be high. But she had to know. As commander, she owed them that much. Tell me, Hyejin checked her tablet. 8,000 military personnel killed in action. 4,000 colonists who served as decoys. 2,000 civilian contractors who maintained the hidden weapons. 14,000 dead in total. 14,000. That was more than Jiwoo had planned for. The Vryn had fought harder than expected. They had damaged more platforms, destroyed more ships, killed more people. But they had lost. 300 Vryn ships had attacked Earth. Only 18 escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured. The greatest invasion fleet the galaxy had ever seen was now debris floating in Earth's orbit. Was it worth it? Jiwoo asked, not for the first time. Hyejin looked at the names on the wall. She thought about the alternative. If Earth had lost, every human would be dead or enslaved. 8 billion people. The Vryn didn't negotiate. They didn't show mercy. They took what they wanted. Yes, Hyejin said. It was worth it. But that doesn't make it hurt less. Above them, in Earth's orbit, Captain Minho Park supervised the cleanup operations. Thousands of pieces of debris floated where the battle had been, destroyed ships, damaged platforms, spent ammunition. It would take years to clear it all. Minho's ship, the Hwarang, had survived with minor damage. His crew had made it through, but he had lost half his squadron. 8 ships. 312 people he had trained with, fought beside, called friends. One of those ships had been commanded by his best friend. They had known each other since childhood. They had joined the fleet together. They had both volunteered for the decoy mission. Only Minho came back. Captain, we have a priority transmission from Earth Command, his communications officer reported. Minho accepted the call. It was from the civilian government, not the military. They wanted to promote him. Make him an admiral. Give him a medal. Call him a hero. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like someone who had survived when others hadn't. Lieutenant Somin Choi stood in the holding cell looking at the Vryn prisoner. It was Tactical Overseer Kyrith, the one who had tried to warn Archon Velric, the one who had seen the trap coming. Somin had orders to interrogate her, to learn everything about the Vryn Collective. But looking at Kyrith now, Somin saw something she didn't expect. Not arrogance. Not hatred. Just defeat and sadness, you knew, Somin said. You tried to warn him. Kyrith looked up. She was taller than any human with silver skin and 3 eyes. But those eyes looked tired. Yes, I knew something was wrong. Your resistance was too organized, too precise. But Velric wouldn't listen. He never did. How many worlds have you conquered? 47. I was there for the last 20. I watched species die because they were too weak to resist. Too divided to unite. Too slow to prepare. Someone thought about that. 47 civilizations destroyed. Billions of lives ended. And Earth had almost been number 48. What made you different? Kyrith asked. How did you prepare for 200 years without giving up? Without fighting among yourselves? Somin smiled sadly. It hadn't been easy. Earth had almost destroyed itself before uniting. Wars, famines, disasters. But when Dr. Lee discovered the Vryn were coming, everything changed. Every nation, every culture, every person had a common enemy. A reason to work together. Fear, Somin said. We were terrified, so we prepared. In the command center, Hyejin analyzed the data Somin's team had recovered from Vryn ships. What she found made her blood run cold. The Vryn Collective had 17 more species marked for conquest. Some were more advanced than Earth. Some had larger populations. All of them were going to die, unless someone warned them. Hyejin brought the data to Jiwoo. They looked at star charts showing other civilizations, other worlds, other people who had no idea they were targets. We have to tell them, Hyejin said. Jiwoo studied the maps. Earth had just barely survived. They had prepared for 200 years and still lost 14,000 people. These other species had no warning, no preparation, no chance. But Earth couldn't fight the entire Vryn Collective alone. They had destroyed one fleet, but the Vryn had dozens more. Hundreds of worlds. Millions of ships. We need allies, Jiwoo said. We need to share what we learned. Show them how to prepare. It was a massive decision. For 200 years, Earth had hidden, preparing in secret. Now they would have to reveal themselves to the galaxy, show their strength, offer help, become something they never planned to be. Protectors. That night, Jiwoo stood on the surface for the first time in weeks. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Vryn Collective was learning about their defeat. Somewhere out there, other species were living in peace, not knowing war was coming. Minho joined her, followed by Hyejin and Somin. The 4 of them had led Earth through its darkest hour. Now they had to decide what came next. The government wants me to resign, Jiwoo said. They think the person who planned the war shouldn't lead the peace. Why, are they right? Minho asked. Jiwoo thought about her brother, about the 14,000 names on the memorial wall, about the choices she had made, the sacrifices she had ordered, the blood on her hands. Yes, she said. They're right. I did what needed to be done, but now Earth needs something different, someone who sees people as people, not pieces in a game. Hyejin put a hand on her shoulder. Jiwoo had sacrificed everything for humanity's survival. Her family, her life, her soul maybe. She deserved rest, but there was still work to do. The Vryn would come again. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not for years, but they would come. And next time they would know what Earth was capable of. Next time Earth needed to be stronger, and they wouldn't be alone. We won, Soman said quietly. We actually won. They stood together looking at the stars, thinking about the future. They had paid a terrible price for victory, but they had proven something important. Humanity would not go quietly. They would not be easy prey, and anyone who ignored their warnings would learn the same lesson the Vryn had learned. Earth was not a victim. It was a trap, and it was waiting.